Well, hello everybody to our 100 million download extravaganza. Um, so looks like my camera's lagging a little bit here. That is okay. I'm going to assume that's all related to my IDE here doing its thing. All right. Well, Gregorius, we've been at this for a long time, and it took us. Let's see. I think our first. Let me go ahead and actually I'll share my screen real quick. I think our first instance of Akka.net being published in NuGet must have been early 2014, would be my guess. If I go down here, yeah, that'd be March 19th, 2014. So it's been took us and then we've published a whole bunch of additional packages since. We're sitting at like 103 million downloads so far. My guess is it'll take us, so it took us, let's see, about nearly 12 years to get to 100 million downloads. I think we'll get to 200 million downloads in another maybe 2 to 3 years. I think is about how long it'll take. So Akka.net's grown by leaps and bounds in terms of the total number of users and adopters in that stretch of time. So I feel like we're in a pretty good position to make a run of it here. Obviously, the primary way we like to measure our installation base is actually via the number of installs of the core Akka package, but keeping track of the whole, menagerie of Akka.net packages out there and seeing how they're being used is also a pretty good measure as well. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the project's total adoption here. Now, for our stream today, this is going to be pretty casual. I opted not to torture anybody with background music this time since we had some complaints about Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy being played on a loop nonstop for 2.5 hours or however long we did it last time. So I opted not to do that, but I think we will go ahead and kind of follow a similar format to last year, where we're going to go ahead and attempt to implement some parts of the Akka.net 1.6 roadmap. Now, I'm pulling up Twitter in another thread over here. Sorry, another browser window. Let me just grab this real quick. Because we actually did a poll trying to see what people wanted to see us implement. All right. Let me go ahead and grab that. Let's see. I think the voting for that is right here. Here we go. Got it. This is on October 2nd, so about 8 days ago when we announced the stream. Gregorius, did you happen to vote in this at all or no?
No, I didn't even know that you have a poll running.
Oh man, I post this stuff in Discord. But that's all good. So the majority of users who voted here said surprise me. And then the next runner-up was AOT support. So I had considered, after, basically we were essentially given carte blanche here, I had considered us having us implement something completely off the wall as part of this stream. I was just telling Gregorius, a system that we are in dire need of shipping actually is a application for being able to record benchmark data and help us plot the growth in, let's say, performance improvements over many different iterations of the software. That's a kind of a performance management capability that we don't really have. The .NET core runtime people have a project called Arcade that helps them do that, but you basically need a PhD to be able to actually set that up, which is not something we're interested in doing anytime soon. I thought about doing that, but the problem is that if we started a stream aimed at Akka.net and we tried to build an application from scratch where it's like literally we're starting with a blank sheet of paper, not even a GitHub repository, about if we're doing 3 hours, about 2.5 hours of that will be spent doing planning, specking, database stuff, and ASP.NET Core stuff. And maybe if we're lucky, 30 minutes of it would be Akka.net. We thought that kind of stinks. We should probably be a little bit more further along with the project, I guess, to go ahead and do that. Although there would probably be a lot of interest, I think, in us doing a video series of building an Akka.net application from scratch, where you have to price in the web stuff as like par for the course of doing that. So I think there probably would be some interest in that, but we're simply just not prepared and organized to do that today. So what I think we should do is AOT support, because that is measurable, achievable, and we already have like a black and white validation system for that. Do you agree, Gregorius?
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. So we'll go ahead and implement that. This is our epic for AOT support for Akka.net right here. The basic idea behind this is to enable Akka.net to be compiled into essentially AOT applications, where you don't need to ship the .NET runtime. I personally, let's see, we got a little comment from Richard here. Live coding something from scratch would be a good teaching resource. I completely agree. That's something we should do. We had a discussion on a GitHub issue recently about needing a more holistic tutorial of building like a real app from scratch with Akka.net, which I think would be a good thing to do for boot camp. I think if we planned, sketched, and organized something and actually did a series of streams to try to get that out the door, I think that would be really good. So I might need to go to my calendar and block something out to do that. And I think this idea of building sort of a benchmarking performance repository would actually be a pretty good use case for Akka.net, namely that you would basically want to use something like Akka.persistence to help kind of record the events that are being sent from a CI/CD system, like user recorded this piece of benchmark data. You'd want to use projections to actually go and stick the normalized benchmark data into like a time series arrangement almost, for being able to plot benchmark values on screen. And then you might also need actors for doing things like dispatching. There'd essentially need to be like a GitHub app that's here where you can summon the benchmarking agent to go ahead and run a benchmark job and then report back with like an SVG rendering or whatever of like, here's how the thing looks and so on. So there would be a lot of value in doing that, I think. Now, I have done something a little unusual here, which is I have left Discord on for today's stream. Don't make me regret doing that. In fact, you know what? I'm already going to go ahead and turn it off because I'm being pinged with support questions right now, which I am not going to answer while we're trying to do this. So what we're going to work on today is we are going to try to implement and make some significant progress on AOT support for Akka.net on the 1.6 branch. Now, we have already had some success with this so far. Namely, we have gotten rid of the configuration manager. That was one source of AOT problems. We also got rid of the expression builder. That was Michael Buck's contribution there. So receive actors are now AOT friendly. I just spent a few minutes getting the AOT compilation canary up and running again, since we haven't touched it in a little while. So I've gone and I've given this a little nudge, and we can see some of the AOT compilation failures coming back on Linux and Windows here. I was talking with Gregorius about what we're actually going to have to do and in what order. The deal with AOT compilation in terms of getting the canary to pass is you have to work top down. You have to start with the messages that are actually logged here and fix those. You can't go and chase down like theoretical issues and then hope they show up here. That's not going to work. You need to actually fix the issues that are really being detected by the AOT, canary itself. So let's take a look at the build output and see what we are running into. We'll start with that as our starting point. And then from there, we can go ahead and actually begin working the problem. That sound good to you, Gregorius?
Yep.
All right. So looks like the problem we had here was a stupid CI/CD issue, actually, where we actually really did request the right SDK version, 80402. And this is looking for 80403. Okay. Well, that's silly. Let's go ahead and take a look at, if I go to my GitHub app here and pull this open. Let me open Sublime Text. Oh, goodness. All right, get rid of that. So I've got like a million Sublime Text windows here. Get rid of that. Okay, and here's the one we actually want for Akka.net itself. Good deal. All right, let's take a look at global.json. 8043 is what we're requesting. Roll forward is major. And it says that 804.3 was not installed. That seems suspicious to me. Let's go and take a look at the build system, AOT pipeline. Well, there's the problem right there, which is that we're simply not requesting the correct version from global.json. So let's go and find where we actually do that. Let's see. There it is. This is what we need. Okay, let me grab that. Like I said, this branch hasn't been touched in a little while. Okay, so that's should be fixed now. Let me go ahead and commit and push this. Use global.json for AOT Canary. And let's see if we can get some updated data. All right. I'm just doing my GPG signing off screen there. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and rerun that. I guess I could probably also run this locally. Why don't I give that a shot? If I go and pull this up, and I think I just need to run this out of the root. Yeah, let me give this a try here. This should work just fine. And let's see, I've got Rider up and running. Yeah, I think that should work. All right, so let's go ahead and give that a shot here and see if we can get that data a little sooner than the build system can deliver it. But this is it. This AOT compatibility script we essentially stole from Microsoft. Okay, there we go. Good. We're getting all the good stuff now. All right. So let's take a look at this. These are all of the errors that we really want to, these are all the errors that we really want to be able to resolve. So the first issue that we're running into is the actor system extension loading. Unrecognized value passed to the parameter type name of method system.type.get type string is not possible to guarantee the availability of the target type. This is something that we are going to wrestle with quite a bit inside this application is the loading of types from strings. This is stuff that we do in Hocon quite a bit. So the area that this first complaint is about is going to be our extensions loading system. So let me go ahead and switch back over to, in fact, let me grab this. I'm going to take all this output and we're going to have to kind of work this, I think, case by case, right? All right, so copy that. In fact, you know what I might do is let's use a little bit of AI magic here. Claude, dangerously skip permissions. Go ahead and grab this. We're going to use Claude code here. Go ahead and paste that. This might take just a second since it's pasting quite a bit of text into the Claude code buffer. So give that just a moment. But what I'm going to do is have it turn this into a gist that has a to-do list on it. And we're going to go ahead and use this to systematically, top to bottom, try to eradicate some of these errors. Each one of these is going to require a little bit of planning in order to do. It's not trivial. Can you turn this list of AOT compilation errors into a GitHub? Actually, I guess we could probably just do a GitHub issue. Where are the issues on the epics here? Skip Hocon-based type loading for exceptions. Here we go. This is the right issue. And can you turn this list of AOT compilation errors into a GitHub issue that is referenced from the, in fact, I think this is kind of a combination of issues. It's probably props and it's probably type loading. We'll go ahead and reference it from here. To a GitHub issue with a to-do list that is referenced from the AOT compilation epic. We'll go ahead and do that here. All right, I'll go ahead and let Claude code cook on that in the background. It'll use the GitHub command line application to put all that together. So I guess, Gregorius, we should go ahead. We already know where the first stop is on here. It's taking a look at the way we load actor system extensions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me open up another new, well, not browser, but a new tab here. Let's go to repositories, olympusmaka.net. And let me step over to here. And let's take a look at, close all tabs, how we actually go about doing that. So it was what, actor. In fact, actually, if I pull this up again, let's go up to the top. Actor system impl.load extensions. All right, let's take a look at that. I guess this is internal.
Yeah, that one.
This is it. All right, and where is load extensions? Here we go. Okay. Load extensions. So we get this from aka.extensions, and we go ahead and we try to load all these. Do we have any default extensions enabled by default on here? Let's see. If we take a look, because right now we're just doing AOT compilation on the base package. We're not looking at stuff like aka.remote or whatever. Do we have any default extensions? It appears to be empty. So from a linting perspective, it's this call down here. So do you think if we did an early exit that would work okay? Or do we need to do something? Well, you know what? Actually, let me pivot back to the AOT branch. So I go back to AOT Canary. Let's check that back out. If the set of extensions is empty, will that work? Will that satisfy the AOT compiler unless someone specifies it? My guess is no. We're probably going to have to. We're probably going to have to fix that. But let's see what we can get away with here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do var extension type names. And let's go ahead and grab this. Move that up here. Okay. Do that. Extension type names. If extension type names, count equals 0, return. Okay. We'll go and say, will this please the AOT compiler? My guess is no.
I'm guessing since it's compile time here, it would actually read the type get type, and when it tries to compile that, it will just bail.
All right, let me see if this opened. Here we go. Here we go. I got the full. So Claude was able to go ahead and turn this into a full to-do list now. This is all the trim and analysis warnings here. Let me add this to AOT. And we'll add this to milestone 1.6. Okay. So yeah, I think you're right, Gregorius, that this is it's not looking at, actually, yeah, you're right. This won't even work, will it?
Nope.
This won't work at all because it's not about whether there's any types present. It's about the thing we're doing being bad, right?
Yep.
All right. So you know what? Let me go ahead and discard all that code change there. And let's think back to our other issue that we've taken a look at before. If we go to the epic here, skip HOCON-based type loading for default implementations. I think we're probably going to have to go a step even further, and we're going to have to come up with a solution that will allow us to skip type-based loading for everything, essentially, where types need to be brought in by reference, where the issue here is that you can't statically link things that are loaded by type string, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the real underlying problem. So maybe there's a way we can sidestep some of this. Now, you've had some attempts around doing that. If I could find it. Let's see. Proof of concept type loader for type.getType. And what did we attempt to do here? Yeah, I remember this. This was basically a big meta dictionary of all the different little types that could be registered. So here's what I think we should try to do. I think I'm on the latest here. Let me just do get status. Let's go ahead and do git checkout B. So we'll go ahead and keep the AOT connect. Yeah. Maybe we should do git checkout dev, git checkout B, type hints. What we'll do. If there's a way we can kind of preserve a static reference to a type and not have to try to load it from Hokon, that would help quite a bit, right? Where this would come into play a little bit is something like the setup classes that we use for things like being able to statically type serializers and those extensions. So this kind of gets into a philosophical question, which is, should we just, is AOT compatibility more important than backwards compatibility with Hokon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit of a sticky wicket, if you ask me. This kind of begs the question: do we want to ship a separate assembly that has like a AOT to actor system or whatever that is AOT compatible, where this will all work? Where basically what we are in effect doing is changing Akka.net's configuration system, where rather than trying to make the core Akka.net modules AOT compatible, we actually have a separate DLL that can be AOT compiled that uses sort of a minimal subset of some of what Akka.net can do. That's sort of really that's really the question there. But the problem is, I don't see how we could do that without essentially cloning all the code and duplicating it, where like the symbols wouldn't be the same between each of them, right?
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a tricky question. Do you want to support AOT or do you want to keep supporting Hokon, in a backwards compatible fashion? I think we could probably sell getting rid of some of the Hokon compatibility as long as we front all the changes correctly with Akka hosting, right? Where you can use Akka hosting to essentially register your types and do whatever. And it wouldn't be all that different from how something like ASP.NET Core is trying to achieve backwards compatibility with, I was trying to achieve AOT compilation as well. So what would be the way to go for doing this? Well, let's take a look real quick. This would be a good question to ask Claude. Take a look at, and what's the name of the actual file here? Akka.conf. Take a look at akka.conf. There you go. What are the sets of things that we can load from Hokon today? That's the source of our AOT compilation problems. So basically, describe for us the range of things that are loaded from Hokon today. So I put a list together on, let's see, this issue. We know mailboxes, log formatters, loggers, schedulers, dispatchers. I guess actor system extensions also belong on that list. What else might we be missing that all belongs in here? So that's really kind of where I think we're going to need to come up with a little bit of a solution for some of this. All right. So I guess what we should do, wait for Claude to give us here we go. ActorRef provider, yep, serialization bindings, mailboxes, dispatchers, executors, logger types, and more. Yeah, 10 major categories. Okay, please add this color to the GitHub issue you created previously. And maybe correlate that with, let me go and add the other GitHub issue that we have open here. All right. It'd be good to get all that information up on the GitHub issue, because just YOLOing it and going into trying to allied type loading for things might be a little trickier than it looks, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the next things we're going to need to do is come up with a potential migration plan for being able to help users essentially sidestep a lot of the Hocon loading issues. The other problem this kind of introduces, in my opinion, is there's going to be this sort of shared dependence between Akka hosting and like the setup classes and all that stuff. And how much of Akka hosting is actually AOT, AOT compilable right now, which is not something that we've tested at all, right?
Not really, but I mean, the way hosting works right now, it just composes Ocon, so all of the underlying problem is still there.
Well, the hosting stuff, my question's more about Microsoft.extensions. What parts of like the dependency injection system, for instance, support
I
AOT?
have no idea.
Because if you take a look at, just to give you an example, if we look at, let's go ahead and open Akka hosting. I think I can think of one area that might fall apart completely with AOT compilation, which is going to be, let's take a look at, it's in core hosting. This would be the I required actor stuff, which I think we wire that all up. It's not the hosted service. I think is it here? Yeah, I think it's in here. Let me see if I can find it. Health check. Akka configuration builder at Hocon. At hosted service. That's not it. It must be the Akka configuration builder where we do this. Let's look for I required. Yeah, this guy I think is going to be a problem. Where this is sort of a broad match where it's like, hey, if you look for a required actor of this type, return a required actor of that matching type. I don't know if that is going to jive in an AOT compatible fashion. That might be a little challenging. But if people are able to get like ASP.NET apps up and running, maybe this will work. Because I know the stuff that doesn't work with ASP.NET Core and AOT is things like you can't use Razor pages and controllers, and you can't use SignalR. All that stuff relies pretty heavily on a reflection scheme, not all that different from what Akka.NET uses. But that being said, they do support things like the minimal web API, which I think the real motivation for minimal web API was AOT support originally, to try to help solve some of the cold start issues with things like Azure Functions and that type of thing. So they do support a pretty broad swath of the DI system. They would need to have that in order for even a minimal web API application to get like a logging dependency injected. So the range of stuff that Akka hosting and by extension Microsoft.extensions might support actually might be a lot broader than we think. This does make me a little reticent on some of the type loading stuff. So here's what I think we should do. This idea of skipping Hocon based type loading for default implementations, let's go for it. See if we can get that to work with just like if we take a look at the actual AOT Canary like implementation, it's a pretty vanilla Akka.NET application. Let me see if I can grab the source code for it. Here it is. Create an actor system, create an untyped actor, create a receive actor, do an ask operation, terminate. Pretty basic stuff. No real nothing all that substantial for us to have to do here. We're not doing custom mailboxes or anything else. This is sort of your run-of-the-mill scenario that really should work, So why don't we try getting this to work, and then maybe we can kind of gradually expand our sample to include things like custom extensions or whatever, right? Yeah. Okay. You know what? Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do type hints. So I think the first thing we should do, this probably belongs in the internal space here, Because yeah, this is actually where we're configuring all the stuff that's causing problems: the scheduler, the provider, the serializers, the loggers. We just need to disable Hocon type loading from being in here in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Internal sealed class type hints. Internal API. AOT support. Used to eliminate Hocon-based type loading so we can comply with AOT trimming rules. All right, so we'll give that a shot. Let's take a look at some of the underlying types down here. Let's see. If we go to, what was the first one? Was it extensions?
Extensions, yeah.
Is that configure settings? Yeah, where do we actually configure extensions? Where are you called? You get called at load extensions, and you get called at the start of the actor system. Got it. Okay. The ActorRef provider is going to be another interesting one. So we're going to need to include support for that because we AOT load that usually. So let's go ahead and do type hints. I think we can probably make this thread safe. But for the time being, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do concurrent dictionary. Maybe it's better to kind of do this in a piecemeal fashion here. Where, let's see, you were going with a sort of a more of a generic structure. I think maybe a little subclassed approach like you were doing is actually probably the right direction here. Let's go to, oops, get rid of that. Let's go to internal, add a new class, type hints. Okay. All right, and here's what we'll go ahead and do. Sealed class. Well, maybe we'll make it type hints. T key, T value. Yeah. I think we can keep it relatively broad. Type hints, public. Concurrent dictionary. Hints equals new. And we'll make that actually internal sealed. Okay. And then we'll do like an internal sealed. Well, actually, I guess we already have a type for this. If we go to like, actually, no, it's kind of stupid, isn't it? Let's go ahead and get rid of that. We don't really need to do this. We could just do a concurrent dictionary, things like provider selection. And then do a factory. How do we normally create like the ActorRef provider? Where does this guy get assigned? There you go. Activate the provider, name, settings, event stream, like that. That's sort of the contract that we enforce currently. And yeah, this is another one we're going to have to fix, right, Gregorius? Can't can't go loading the provider like that. If the provider type, go ahead. Sorry.
Does create instance work in AOT as long as we have to type?
This works. This doesn't work.
Okay.
So it's the loading of types from strings that's the problem.
Okay. So
we can go, yeah.
For the type of classes themselves, we do have enough hints from the configuration. Like anything that has a class equals something that's trying to load the class, right?
Basically, we need to have a static reference to the assembly that has that type somewhere in there. So things like, go ahead. Sorry.
So anything from core, we already know like which those are being tried to be loaded
Yeah.
dynamically.
The one sticky wicket with this is that it's actually getting the actor system to load the remote and the cluster actor F provider. That's the one
Hmm.
thing that's a little tricky. Um, that's a solvable problem. The actor system, what's the setup class we use? That the actor system setup type will let us kind of negotiate around that. But that's where the sticky wicket comes from. In fact, did this get hinted at all on the issue that was filed here? Let's take a look at that. Let's go and pull this up. Yeah, it did get hinted at. Well, if we are able to, in fact, that actually reminds me, where does the provider selection get used? So that since I was starting to work on that here, provider selection, func, you know, and I guess this would be what is the input types that the active provider needs? Where are we creating that? Name, I guess that's the name of the actor system. Settings, event stream. That's a string. Settings, event stream. All right, cool. We'll go ahead and do string settings, event stream. You get an iActorref provider back. Actually, we don't actually need to do this. Just the type would be appropriate. We'll go ahead and call this provider hints. One thing we will do is if we go up to here, I guess we don't really want the type stuff exposed publicly. So we'll go ahead and do a private read-only type hints. And in the constructor down here, we will. So here's my question is like, if we go and pass in the actor system setup and we implement, there should be a provider selection in here somewhere. Maybe that's the bootstrap setup. Yeah, let's go to inheritors, bootstrap setup. Provider selection, get provider. Right. Where does this actually get used anywhere? Provider selection.
Yeah, that's it. It just returns an FQCN, I think.
Yep, just returns a string. Well, that's a bit of a problem. So to fix this is the ability to dynamically load the providers. We would need to do something like actually pass that provider's type in rather than its fully qualified name. That's going to be a little challenging. We would basically have to move. If I go up here, wherever provider selection went, we would need to go ahead and let's go back to bootstrap setup. We would need to move these guys, the actual where are the implementations of this thing? Provider selection. Here we are. We would need to actually move these implementations down into some of the base classes. Like we would need to move this out provider selection and move it into like Akka.remote in order to do that.
Yeah.
God, what a pain in the ass. Okay. This is looking a lot harder than I thought it would be. It's basically we would have to essentially, migrate all of this down there. The other option would be merging Akka.remote, clustering, and remoting all into a single package. That would be the other way of trying to solve that problem, where everything's got a static reference to everything else. Problems that introduces is it's not really an issue for, let's say, like if you don't want to use Akka.remote, just don't configure it. That's not the end of the world. Where that's actually a bit of a big problem is that you're going to end up making the size of the Akka DLL pretty big, which kind of defeats the purpose for people that are trying to run local applications.
Yeah.
That's going to be a bit of an issue there.
Well,
Jeez.
we could probably do that, but instead of, returning a string, just return type and then move the actual implementation to remote and cluster to its own their own packages. I mean, if people are not going to use it, then they don't need the reference anyway.
You know,
So
I'm thinking that we are going to need to just use a compilation flag here. Is what this is going to come down to. That we probably are going to need to like do a separate shaded package that has a compilation flag enabled for core Akka that basically makes it AOT compatible. You know, where
that
if you
makes
want
sense.
AOT support with Akka.net, you can certainly get it, but it's going to come with some trade-offs here. That probably gives us the best balance between not breaking backwards compatibility for existing users and still achieving AOT. Like trying to make all this stuff work for Akka.remote and cluster and all that wasn't in scope anyway. So maybe we're better off just like making AOT support its own package potentially. I'm thinking maybe that's the better way to go. What do you think?
It's worth a try.
All right. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to define a new symbol in type hints. And we're going to go ahead and call this like if AOT enabled, end if. And what I can go ahead and do, in fact, you know what I can do? I can get rid of, trying to remember how I've done this before. This is MS Build dark magic I'm about to engage in here. I can, I guess, for the time being. Where's the build variable settings? Let's see. Condition. I think I should be able to set a property up here. Class library, target framework. Let's see. Define constants. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Trace any CPU.
That's the defined constant, I think.
Yeah, I want to make it so it's basically the constants are defined regardless of build configuration. Optimize code, allow unsafe code, bin debug. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Define constants. Let's go ahead and say AOT enabled. There we go. All right. We'll go ahead and do this in debug mode. Go ahead and do AOT enabled. All right. There, that should allow us to kind of move along here. Well, we certainly don't need provider hints for this for the time being. In fact, we can actually simplify this quite a bit. Let's go ahead and kind of trace the route here. Configure event stream. All right, well, that's pretty easy. Okay, that all looks pretty easy. No problems there. Then I guess we got to go back to configure provider. We'll go ahead and do provider equals, rather than do that, provider type equals type of local actoref provider. In fact, you know what? We should really base this off of the AOT Canary. Let me go check out AOT Canary. All right, we'll go ahead and do that. Actually, let me do this. Where were we? Let's see. Configure provider. We'll go ahead and do if AOT enabled. Else. And if. Basically, for now, we'll just go ahead and hard code the provider type to be the local ActRef provider. To do make configurable via static reference. All right, we'll do that. And then if we go to the configure dispatchers, termination callbacks, where's the other like type.get type stuff? Configure scheduler. All right, well, we'll go ahead and do this. If AOT enabled, we'll go ahead and do var. Scheduler type. Type of, and this should be, what is the default scheduler class? We go to hocon.config. Let's look for scheduler. Pretty sure, yeah, hashed wheel timer scheduler. Okay. We'll go back to here. In fact, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring type hints back. We're going to go ahead and do basically public type default scheduler type. And actually, no, we'll make this static read only. Default scheduler type equals type of hash wheel timer scheduler, public static read only type, default ActRef provider type. There we go. So go ahead and actually, this is, you know what this kind of reminds me of is writing an analyzer, actually doing some of this. All right, so we'll go ahead and do equals type hints dot default scheduler. And then if we go to where's configure provider? AOT enabled, we'll go ahead and do type hints dot default ActRef provider type. And yeah, we can basically, if we want to make things configurable down the road for AOT, we can do that through the type hints class instead of in here, which I think should work okay. All right, let's go ahead and try running. Let's see, what was the AOT canary command again? Let's see, is it what? Scripts. Let me just double check real fast. I just got to look at the build system. That's it. Test AOT compatibility .NET 8. All right, let's give this a shot. So we were at what, 56 warnings before? Let's see if this moves the needle at all. Akada actor.provider is not a valid type name. Okay, well, we need to fix that, I suppose. Oh, because we're using release mode. All right, you know what? This will completely nuke everything, but let me go ahead and just move this into the property group up above. So basically, this will like stop every test suite other than like the core ones from being able to run properly, but it'll allow us to get past this little hurdle here. So let's do that. All right. See if that all works. So here's my plan for this, Gregorius, in terms of what I'm thinking. Whittle down the number of AOT errors. No parameterless constructor defined for type hash wheel timer scheduler. Now we're up to 65, going in the wrong direction here. All right, and what is this complaining about? Still load extensions. There's no parameterless constructor for hash wheel timer scheduler. Okay, so what do we do with configure scheduler? This looks right to me. Let's take a look at what we were doing before. Okay, configure extensions. Well, for the time being, if you call configure extensions, load extensions, here we go. If AOT enabled, log warning for the time being, else we'll go ahead and do it. All right. That should resolve that issue. So we're basically just going to disable extensions for the time being. Again, put a little to do. Need some way of loading extensions in AOT mode. Probably mean a setup class. What we're going to do is basically create a second like akka.aot or something like that. Some sort of package that basically is going to reference all the source from here and will have that compilation flag set to default. We do this in petabridge.command for being able to ship the PBM client as a standalone executable and as a .NET tool. So that's just like a little bit of MS build magic is all that takes in order to do that. Does that make sense, Gregorius? That's sort of what I'm thinking. But in order for that design to get validated, we got to see some forward progress here. Let's take a look at that. Actually, you know what else? All those other methods that would have gotten called, I've got to align all of them too in order to make the compiler happy. That's another thing we're going to fix. Yep, that's all got to get fixed. Okay, the missing method exception. All right, we're down. Hey, we're down from 65 to 64. Let me go ahead and actually, I don't think any of these do any weird meta programming stuff. So I think we're probably okay. I think we're probably all right. Yeah, I think so. Let's take a look at that scheduler error. Activator, where's it? Configure scheduler. Okay, we're using the correct type here. iScheduler, inheritors, hash wheel timer scheduler. Yeah, that all looks right to me. Okay, if we go back to type hints. So why is that not working now? Let's go ahead and try. Yeah, let me go back to where we were. All right, why is that not working? Default scheduler type. Because according to the AOT compiler, it's not happy with that. Let's go to the AOT application. Let's just try running this. AOT.app, debug mode. Let's run it. What would we call an AOT to Akka.NET Core package, Gregorius?
Akka.aot. I mean, it's simpler. The simplest way of doing it.
I guess. All right, that's pretty. I was thinking like if we shipped like Akka.slim or whatever, you know, Akka.aot. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
I mean,
I wonder how
go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder how like ASP.NET Core deals with that, where it's like yeah, the whole kit and caboodle of like a lot of their base constructs just don't work, you know? All right.
Mhm.
So this should work. Ran fine. Yeah, that ran just fine. I don't get I don't get at all why that the AOT compilation was throwing an error there. I wonder if something is getting elided. Maybe this is an activator issue, actually. Um, let's go back to configure extensions. Let's go here. Actually, I guess it's load extensions. Let's grab this. Var possible extensions equals. Let's grab this bit of code. Yeah, we'll oh, I guess I need to fix that. There we go. Possible extensions. Stick that here. If possible extensions dot count is actually, you know what? I can just move this above the conditional compilation. Skip rest of loading process. All right, that should get rid of that warning. Let's try running let's take a look at the AOT compiled output again. No parameterless constructor defined a type actor. That. I wonder if it failed because of other issues inside of here. Like this might actually be an upstream problem potentially.
It could be. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look here. Configure scheduler. Oh, here we go. Looks like indeed there was a problem with doing that. All right, trim analysis. Type argument does not satisfy dynamically accessed member types public constructors in a call to there. Okay, maybe this is something we can fix with some attributes. Let's take a look at this. All right, let me go ahead and grab that. Let's ask Claude real quick. We're attempting to make some AOT compilation improvements in this experimental branch. And we received the following error during local AOT validation. Oops. Go ahead and just get some white space there. Yep, it's fine. Is there some annotations we can apply to type hints to satisfy the AOT compiler? Because this opens up potentially another door for us that if in a recent version of the .NET toolchain, if there's a way to basically let the compiler know that we can basically still allow the activator to play nice, and essentially I think what we need to do is just surface which constructor needs to get called. That would open up a lot of doors potentially. So let's see what we can do to do that. This is kind of a bit of my own C# knowledge that is underdeveloped. You know what I mean? All right, there we go. Is that all it took? Was just doing that? Okay. Let's see what that did. I don't know about you, Gregorius. I'm a little skeptical. But we'll see we'll see if that actually satisfied the AOT compiler to any extent here.
Well, kind of makes sense, but like it's an attribute that we've never used before. So.
Well, we definitely have a new error. So we're back to the same number of errors, but we're erroring out in a different place now, which is the newing up of the constructors. Okay. Well, that's not the end of the world. Let's scroll up here. Props.create producer. Okay, well now we're having issues with props. Okay, why don't we do this so far? Let me go ahead and commit. So what have we actually done? In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a new branch here. We'll go ahead and call this get checkout B AOT compilation flags. And I'll go, actually, here's what I'll do. Checkout B experiment / AOT compilation flags. Go ahead and add all that. Initial experiments with type hints and compiler directives. Okay, go ahead and save all that. Go ahead and enter my GPG signing stuff over there. All right. Now, if we want to go and mess with props, let's see what we can do about that. I wonder, it'd actually be kind of amazing if the new expression wasn't a problem at all, but the actual just accessing of the constructor was. Let's go here. All right. It wanted us to do, where's type? Input type, output type. Where was the error message exactly? It was, if we scroll up here. Props.create producer.
That's the actor producer, isn't it?
Yeah. Type of vector that's created, JSON ignore. Okay, I guess I could just, is it this attribute? It's create producer is what's complaining about. Oh, this. I see. Okay. We should not be calling this method pass an explicit indirect actor producer reference instead. Well, this should be relatively easy to fix. I'm going to cheat IDE. This doesn't work properly on Windows because Claude Code runs in WSL for some reason. At least I think it does, based off the pathing that you saw there. Okay. Go ahead and pass this in. I believe this is referencing an old obsoleted method for creating the actor producer. Is that the case, or is this referencing a newer method that is still in active use? I vaguely remember why we deprecated this call down here, but it's been a while. How many usages of this do we have?
See, well,
Oh, Akka DI core. Wow, this is old as hell. Then, I mean, we deleted that package a while ago. We can definitely get rid of this. Okay, but we stopped, shipping akadi.core, 2-3 years ago. We could probably remove that method. I guess the difference is that basically, are we calling down to this method? I think we are. And where do we actually access the indirect actor producer? Let me find it.
Well, the easiest way to do to just make sure that we don't use it is just to comment it out, see what screams.
This is what I was looking for. default producer. I think default producer, and this producer works via throwing an exception. Okay, well, that's definitely not what we want to do. I'm pretty sure it was this guy is what we wanted to use. Is that right? I think so. This is the normal producer that we have in place today, I think. Yeah, I think this should be okay. Let's try getting rid of that. Cache the creator. Don't know about that. A lot of really old code in here. Let's see. All right, show me the compilation error. Let's see if I go to.
Well, there's one error up top, the red line, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's see if
No,
I
no,
just
no.
went to.
In
There we go.
the yeah.
That's what I was looking for. All right, cool. Well, I can get rid of this pragma like that.
Typo.
New activator producer. And then what? I guess that'd be type. Then what else goes here? Args. Guess I can get rid of that. The test suite's probably going to go nuclear one way or another after we do this, but let's see if that helps us move the needle here. Let's go ahead and run that. So essentially what we're going to have to do is get to 0 AOT warnings and then work our way backwards towards like trying to get as much functionality restored as possible. Whereas what I originally wanted to do was whittle down the AOT warnings and then gradually, yeah, okay, so we're down to 64. All right. Gosh, what a pain in the butt. All right. Okay. Let's see. Go ahead and do a little commit down here. This is going to be a slog, I think, Gregorius. Deprecated, removed. Deprecated aka.di.core backwards compat method to resolve trim warning with indirect actor or producer. All right. Okay. I haven't pushed any of this up to CI/CD yet, but I'll go ahead and get that up on aka.net now. Cool. All right. 63 warnings. What's the next one? Create instance actor system with extensions. This is on actor extensions.cs. Okay. Let's go and explore that. Nope, didn't mean to do that. This is it. So it's all this activator stuff. You know, I'm absolutely that commit message. I guess we're not fans of detailed commits here. You know, I could have used the I guess detail blob for doing that, but this stuff's all going to get squashed anyway. So I'll have a chance to rewrite it when the time comes. So let's see. I think for this, I am absolutely going to be lazy as hell about this and just feed this into Claude. I don't care. That is a bug we're going to have to fix. This one, I think Claude can just do an annotation here. All right. Resolve that.
We might need to actually use that new attribute thing with every constructor now.
Every instance of the activator, yeah, probably.
Yeah, for actors.
Yep. I'm with you there. Anytime we grab a type and try to use the activator, we're going to do that. I think what that attribute does. In fact, you know what? Let's take a look at that. Was it the type hints is where we've done that already? Yes.
Yeah.
Dynamically access members. All right.
I think it prevents the compiler from trimming that code out. Like if no one's actually using that code, like if you create a class that's never being used, in AOT compilation, that class would be trimmed.
I suspect you're right.
Yeah. So it wouldn't show up in the actual assembly, and that what makes it, scream at you.
All right. Let's pull over the official Microsoft documentation here on this. Allows tools to understand which members are being accessed during execution of the program. Um, this attribute is valid on members whose type is type or string. What? Wait a minute. If we can apply this to a string, that means some of our dynamic type loading could work potentially.
Maybe.
Maybe. Um, maybe. All right. Let's take a look at a trim warning where we are doing type loading via string. To guarantee the availability of the type. I suspect this is probably toast. Let's go ahead and ask the almighty AI here. Go ahead and grab that. Okay. Where do we need to apply that attribute exactly? So, so tree shaking, not shaking enough? Apparently not. Although I got to say, the stuff we're doing where we're kind of loading types from some strings at runtime, I could understand why the AOT compiler is not thrilled with that. Technically, all those DLLs do need to be compiled together in a application in order for it to make any logistical sense. But there's no guarantee that the AOT compiler is going to see that, So that's kind of that's a problem at the framework level we have to deal with. So let's see what we need to do here for the extensions piece. At this point, the extensions have already been loaded. So that should be okay. Where is it trying to add those attributes? Is it just to the method parameter? Is that where that's going? Or is that an actual property that we have to add that to? Let's see where that goes. Okay. Okay, so Gregorius, apparently you can also apply this to generic attributes. In this case, the with extension method. All right.
Okay.
Didn't know you could do that. All right. And there's another method that needs annotation. Let's fix that one too. Yes, by all means, Claude, do your thing. Okay. I'm going to give Claude a good. We're going to go ahead and give him a little pat on the head here. Shouldn't anthropomorphize the clankers, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay. Let's see if that actually resolved that trim warning. What are we at down here?
53?
63. All right.
63.
Let's try that again. All right. Tree shaking is not shaking enough. Apparently not. I got to be honest with you, Hassan. This is me kind of learning, and I assume Gregorius, both kind of learning how these trim warnings get implemented as we go. I've written a number of AOT compilable command line tools that don't use Akka.net, and that's all fairly straightforward. But taking a 12, 13-year-old framework and that relied real heavily on loading plugins, some strings, and getting it to not do that anymore is a little bit tricky. So we'll see how far we can get on that today. All right, we're down to 61. So we'll go ahead and do added member access attributes to extensions. I'll change that to dynamic member access attributes. And of course, I used the wrong character here, which Git doesn't like. Let me fix that. All right, cool. Okay, so let's go back up to the top. Okay. I guarantee you we're just going to have to like not do this. But since now we know this dynamically member access thing is around, let's see if that will even work. That would open up a whole bunch of doors if that could. Is there any way we can use to resolve this warning? Or is that not how this works? The documentation let me go link to it, mentions we can use this for strings that represent, is it fully qualified? Which is what the string is. All right, let's see if that even works. This changes the game completely if we can do that.
We should probably check when this attribute is added. Like, is it added at .NET 8 or 9 or older?
Well, so far it's working for .NET 8, which is what we're compiling the Canary in. So
yeah,
and it's so far it hasn't given us any trouble at all, even cross compiling on .NET Standard. So the AOT compiler isn't going to be able to evaluate. Let me rephrase that. The AOT compiler is evaluating this stuff as it's being compiled into the application. Now, one thing that's might be a little bit of a sticky wicket here is that if we ship this as a .NET 6 NuGet package, would that still work? Probably not. But we have plans to go and upgrade to .NET 8 anyway, so it becomes kind of a moot point, if you know what I mean. The fact that it still compiles as a .NET standard .NET 6 cross-compiled application tells me that we're probably okay. Okie doke. Let's take a look at this. Suppressed with unconditional suppress message. This tells the trimmer we know about this. We're handling it differently in AOT. Use conditional compilation. Yeah. All right. So no. And does it explain when can that actually see? The issue is that string KVP key comes from HOCON configuration, not from a method parameter. I see. Yeah. All right. Well, basically, so no, the letter of the law here makes it clear that what we're doing is naughty. So I guess we shouldn't bother with that. Where was this code coming from? Is this the where actually is this defined? Mailboxes, line 66. Okay. That kind of jives with what I assumed would be the case from the get-go, which is that you can't is this under actor? Is this under event? Where is mailboxes? Maybe it's under dispatch. Oops. There we go.
line 66 it says.
What do you say, Gregorius?
Line 66 it says. Yeah,
Good times. All right. Requirements. Okay. What is in HOCON for this currently? Let's look. Oh, okay. Logger message queue, multiple consumer semantics. Is this even a thing that exists? Oops, didn't mean to do that. Yeah, apparently it does. Okay. So I guess what we would need to do, mapping between message queue semantics and mailbox configurations. Well, I actually don't think there is an additional. I don't think anyone in the history of Akka.net has ever implemented a custom one of these. If you have, I apologize in advance for what we're about to do. Thank you. We appreciate you joining us on the stream, even if it's only for a little bit of time here. We thought we'd go ahead and just do some live coding and hang out and have fun. I contemplated bringing some beer in here and drinking that during the stream, but I figured, given the complexity of some of the issues we were tackling, I didn't want to stick poor Gregorius with debugging everything I came up with. So yeah. Okay. I think we can turn this into a dictionary. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Requirements. How do the requirements actually get checked? Mailboxes, requirements. So they want the string. Okay. Let's go to type hints. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be lazy as hell again. Let's go with option 2. Use all of the requirements that are specified in Akka.conf. Yep. Let me just double check. I don't think we have any uncommitted changes. We don't. Okay. I will happily let Claude go ahead and populate a little dictionary for me and type hints and do all that stuff. Why not? It's my design, but I don't necessarily need to sit here and literally do the typing on any of that. All right, so let's get that up and running. Boy, there's a lot of other little things I could see us fixing down here. Getting rid of some of these TBDs certainly wouldn't make me sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But number go down is the thing I want. So we're gonna do that until we make some pretty reasonably good progress, I think. All right. All right, let's see what I came up with here. Pull all of this from type hints. Let me go ahead and have it move all that to type hints. I think that would be ideal. So, I'll let that cook. My killer use case for the AOT support for Akka.NET here is getting my link validator to be able to run as a just like cross-platform executable on whatever runtime you want. Although thinking about it, if I turn this into a GitHub action, which I probably will, it's actually going to need the .NET runtime anyway, so it could just work on OS X, Windows, or Linux, regardless of whatever people configure. So I might be kind of defeating the point of using AOT for some of this stuff anyway. Oh well. But that was my original project that I really wanted to see succeed here because of this. All right, so let's see what Claude comes up with. All right. Mailbox bindings. It'll go ahead and just copy the type hints from there. That's great. And this is all internal, right? Yeah. Change that to an I read-only dictionary. New dictionary. I think that'll work just fine. Unless I'm missing something. Oh, piss off. Here, we'll do this. All right.
I don't think you need to dictionary there. Just leave that out.
Oh, actually, yeah. What does mail binding say? Dictionary. This one's a mutable dictionary. That's why. So I'm basically,
Okay.
I don't want our default type hints being messed with, but I'm okay returning a mutable dictionary here. So we're going to do a one-time allocation. I think that's probably okay. All right. I think that should satisfy some of those complaints. I know there's going to be others. Let's give that a little try. All right. See, now I'm wishing we did have music for the stream, considering the length of it. I don't know. We're gonna need to end up coming up with. I think we're gonna end up. We're gradually like ramping up our production values. That's probably gonna be the next frontier. All right. So we are down from how many? Do we have
61 to 60.
The 60. Good Lord. Every single one of these, every single one of these fixes is a struggle. All right. You store mailbox requirements into type hints. All right. Let me go ahead and do that off screen. It's kind of amazing because we actually started off with a smaller number of errors, and they've only increased as we've fixed trim warnings. Okay. Serialization. .cs line 183. Okay. Let's go to that. I'm pretty sure I know what this is. Line 183. This is all the loading from Hocon. Yeah. Serializers config. Well, I got a real easy fix for this. Where is serializers config even defined? Okay. If AOT enabled. Actually, is AOT a built-in compilation symbol? There's a MS build AOT compilation symbol. If we don't have to define a custom symbol, that's even better. Let's see. Let's see. Enable consistent AOT. Yeah, let's take a look at this. All right. Well, MS build issue from July 28th. Build AOT, true. Yep, seen that. What I want to see is this. Okay, emulate AOT constraints. Well, this would all be very nice to have, all this stuff. Doesn't totally answer my question, though. Let me ask Claude here. When compiling in AOT mode, is there a default constant you can use instead of the custom one we're defining? That makes things a lot easier to support. It means that we may not even need a second package potentially. Oh, nope, we still do. Sorry. Yeah, we definitely still do. Yeah, we would still need to actually have a second package. So never mind. This doesn't actually really solve any problem. But since I saw a writer showing that AOT hint, made me wonder if there's a maybe wonder if we could leverage that. I thought this would help me understand that, but this looks like it's more about no, there isn't. Oh, okay. Well, that would certainly work. Huh. Yes, can you add the what's the hint here? Condition publish AOT. You know what? I'm not going to mess with that right now. Only reason being is that if we want to go ahead and make sure the NuGet package is AOT compilable, we're not going to compile the NuGet package with AOT trimming turned on, right? We're shipping .NET symbols with the hope and foreknowledge that they will be nice when a user AOT compiles them into their application. That's a little bit of a different a different story there. So yeah, we probably shouldn't mess with that. All right, on to the next issue. Oh yeah, we were dealing with the serializer. if AOT enabled, else. Oh gosh. To do load default serialization bindings. That's that's gonna suck. Okay. Yeah, that's rough. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the serialization bindings.
This one is actually used by users a lot, so
Yep.
we definitely need to support it.
Yep. No getting around that. Okay. Um all right. So we need to go ahead and support that. So we need to load default serialization bindings from here. To do log a warning if non-default serializers are configured in Hocon. Okay. Now we are not let's just check and see if this resolves the AOT warning first. Then we'll go back and add this real quick.
Okay. Isn't there already a way of doing this via synapse?
There is. So you have the setup code right here, serializer details. And
Mhm.
basically we do 2 rounds of serialization config. A Hocon one and then the setup one down here, I
Yep.
think.
So we actually support it already, kind of.
Serialization binding config. Is this more Hocon stuff? Yeah. Yeah, hold on. If AOT enabled, load default serializers. All right, just a second. To do. Yep. Okay, else. Okay, I think that should be okay. All right, sorry, let me run that again. We're down to 59. All right, chugging along on the AOT support train here. We're almost back to our original total, Gregorius. And all it took was destroying significant portions of Akka.net's functionality. All right, we're down to 58. Okay, we're moving along here. I'm gonna ask Claude. Take a look at the to-dos I just added in serialization.cs. Can you please complete these using the default bindings specified in, and if we go to, I guess it's akka.conf. This, by the way, is actually a pretty good way to like leverage generative AI for these programming tasks. Everything I'm having it do follows a clear pattern that's been established that I kind of did by hand the first time. We have the code that we're not running kind of alighted out down here. This should be something that the system is more than capable of doing on its own, without a huge amount of hand holding for me. If it does stuff that I don't like, I'll probably need to nudge it. See, look, here's another good example. It's exposing a read-only dictionary by default now, rather than doing mutable ones. That's good. So it's kind of picking up some of the other patterns that we put down here. So this is just saving me the trouble of doing a whole bunch of typing, which I appreciate. All right. So you know what else this means we're going to have to do, Gregorius? We're going to have to add a separate test suite for Akka.aot.
Oh yeah.
That's going to suck. All right. Boy, well, this is sort of what you get into when you start trying to fix things, right?
Hmm.
All right, AOT mode. Hey, it's even going through and doing some of the dynamically accessed member stuff for us. Well, that's great. I appreciate you, Claude. Thank you. Still got a compilation error. What on earth is this? I think it's in the middle of rewriting stuff. I'm just going to let it cook for the time being. Yeah, good times. All right. Okay. Yeah, it was just in the middle of rewriting things. All the compilation errors here look like they're gone. Try compiling that myself real quick. We shall see. On the build output down below. Dude, this is going to end up being like a little Manhattan project, getting AOT support to work everywhere. We haven't even looked at Michael Buck's pull request fixing props yet. You know what else I like about this idea of shipping AOT support as its own separate package is it like allows us to sidestep that issue of dropping support for things like remotely deployed actors. That's something that we will never be able to make work with AOT. It straight up just will not work. Period. This allows us to kind of just completely skirt that issue, which I appreciate. So that way, we work really, really hard to make sure that people upgrade, and that's a bit of a sticky wicket. If they upgrade their application and all of a sudden, like a bunch of functionality they depend on no longer exists anymore. I'm assuming that if the compiler didn't blow up here, it's probably not going to blow up on any of the rest of the stuff. So I think we might be okay. All right. Yeah, I think we're okay. I don't think there's any issues here. All right. Let me go ahead and actually stop the compilation here. All right, let's go ahead and try running this and see where we get from a trim warning perspective. So this should help keep whittling things down even further. Obviously, we're not testing any of the functionality yet, but we're getting there. Let's see what the AOT compiler has to say. So we're 58 was the last count. This should probably keep us at 58 or maybe even lower it since we are exposing the type hints correctly. 262.
Yep, something blew
up. Oh, God.
This reminds me of my college days when I code in C# or C++, not C#. Fixing one bug creates 100 new bugs.
Let's see. Yeah, no kidding. We must be doing something in here that the compiler system doesn't like. Dude, I wonder if the issue is it is not a fan of Newtonsoft.json. If that's the case, it's kind of cooked, isn't it?
Well, we would need to switch to system.text.json.
We would indeed. See, he's down here. All right, tell you what I'm going to do. Screw you, buddy. We're absolutely not loading your asses. Let's see if I get rid of Newtonsoft.json, let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm not diving into like why are we using system.xml in here. That's a no-go zone for me. All right. Let's see where that takes us. But yeah, if Newtonsoft.json is part of the problem, then this means that we kind of have to punt a little bit on AOT until we get serialization figured out, right?
Mm. Yep.
Okay, so that was all Newtonsoft.json. Okay. All right. So we've had to comment out Newtonsoft.json from being used as the default object serializer. We're not really that surprised that it would cause problems given its age and reflection heavy approach. Please detailed memory on this to memorizer so we can redress this when it comes time to work on custom serializers. Oh, code source gen serialization for Akka.net. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. The amount of just like 5x the number of AOT compilation errors we have. All right. Serialization, what line number is this? Type argument does not satisfy. Serialization actor system. Line 186.
Serializer config, I think.
Let's see. Well, I thought we already added that to this dictionary here. I guess we need to do it here? Is that what it's asking? Doing it on the actual key value pair? All right. These are both, I think, kind of the same issue. Yeah, they're both the same issue on the same sets of lines. Well, same method at least. Oh boy. Nah, don't worry. Looks like I'm still having issues with memorizer. That's fun. Let's go ahead and paste this in. All right. These two trim warnings. I thought we had already fixed this with the annotations on type hints. What else is required here? All right, so I'm gonna learn. I guess I'm gonna learn something new here. We already did a type hint on the dictionary we're iterating from. Do we also have to do a type hint on the iterator, like the thing that's actually doing the processing here? Oh, it's annotating the actual dictionary itself. Okay, well, that makes sense, I guess. All right, let's go ahead and see if that fixed both of those trim warnings. Dude, getting down to 0 trim warnings is going to be... Why do I feel like that's... Why do I feel like that's not true? It says 0 it says 0, compilation warnings, but I don't really believe that.
Yeah, it sounds way too good to be true.
Okay, look up configurator. Sorry, go ahead, Gregorius.
It sounds way too good to be true.
Yeah, it does.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, well. Type argument is missing.
Yeah, I think you can't use it as a generic type descriptor.
Yeah. Let's see. We were able to solve this for this. And how did we do that? I think we haven't dealt with that yet. We haven't quite gotten
No.
down to the piece of code responsible for that just yet.
Yeah.
So that's yet to be determined. I see. Let me go and stop it. So we're going to need a method where we invoke each individual type, default type, off of a static constant, rather than iterating over a dictionary of them. That's a little tricky, some of that. There might be a better way of doing this, but I can't think of what it is. This is all new territory for me. Okay. What if, rather than using the activator, we store a function for creating a new serializer instance, just like we do inside the serializer setup? That work? So basically, maybe rather than using the activator, we use delegates, Gregorius.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I thought about doing that initially for things like the ActorF provider and all that. The problem with that is just that we would have to expose some way in the future of people being able to pass that function in, but we already do have a tool for doing that for serializers. So why don't we just do that instead? Yeah, Newtonsoft.json's got to go bye-bye. We're going to have to do something to go. I think what we're probably going to end up needing to do, Gregorius, is getting rid of oh gosh, we're probably going to have to get rid of, for AOT compatibility, there's not going to be any reflection-based serialization. It's going to have to all be
Yep.
schema-based, basically all of it.
Yeah. Well, JSON, system text JSON would still work because you can use the compile time generation, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you could. And basically, when you pass in, you would still need like a serializer with string manifest to basically load the right context for that. That basically would allow the static compilation to work if you did all
Yeah.
that. All right, let's take a look at this. I think there's only a single constructor that this actor
Yeah.
takes. Yeah. So we can just go ahead and just return that and not do that. All right, that should work okay. All right, let's see if that still plays nice. What a pain, dude. All this stuff.
So we were at 58 up to 60. Now let's see what the new count is.
Yep. Well, it says 0, which I absolutely do not believe. There we go. That's more like it. All right. 58. Okay, so we're basically back to table stakes again. Okay, I think that should work. Let's take a look at what this thing actually did in our serializer code down here. If AOT is enabled. Okay. Um.
There are more codes.
Oh yeah, here we go. So the default bindings get added up here. That's fine. I think that should be okay. Yeah, I think that should be all right. Okay. Boy. All right. What's next? I guess we'll commit this. Added type hints for serializers. Disabled Newtonsoft.json. Yeah, we would need to actually drop that as a dependency probably for like this entire package in order for it to actually faithfully work. That stinks. I guess we could do. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't really matter in the long run because we're going to get the source generated serialization in here somewhere. But like in the short run, yeah, here's a critical piece of functionality that is straight up will not work. All right, on to the next. What is next in this stinky little mess of AOT compatibility problems? All right. Settings. File 104. Okay. Where is that? Settings. What's happening on this line? Yeah, okay, this is where we're doing the type hint stuff. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. If AOT enabled. Yeah. And we should probably log a warning. Farm, yeah. Log a warning. Thank you very much, Copilot. That looks good. I think that looks okay. Yeah, I think so. All right, let's go ahead and try running that. Every single inch of getting AOT support in here is like, oh yeah, here's a breaking change that'll like turbo nuke a whole bunch of Akadon.net functionality that's been around for 10 years. Yeah, why not? Okay.
Oh, 57. We're down by one.
All right. Yeah, like I said, every little victory we can get here. Okay. All right. Fix actor system setup FQN loading for iActorref provider. All right. Okay. Back to the top of the list. What do we have next? Actor system setup, line 155. The standard out logger. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. If AOT is enabled, Log a warning. Well, we already... yeah. Okay. All right. That should be okay. Basically, we're sticking with the regular old standard out logger. Can't customize it. All right. Let's try running that. Oops. Crap. I did not mean to run that. Well, let's see. Git commit. Is it amend? Fix issue with standard out logger loading. I'm going to do this the lazy way. Please, previous commit was written the wrong message. Please amend it to say, let's see, AOT solve standard out logger loading. All right, I'll let Claude do all the Git shenanigans for me. Let's go ahead and try running the AOT canary. I'll be interested to see if this actually logs a warning message or not. Okay, down to 56. We're almost back to our original total, Gregorius.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Let me go ahead and push that up. All right, great. All right, next to the top of the list. Good Lord. All right, another one. Unrecognized value past the parameter type name, line 99, 199. This is probably the Guardian setup. Let's see. Nope. All right. We know what to do here. Dear Lord. Okay. I think we just need to stick to this. Gregorius, did we make too many things configurable in Akka.net?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Every inch of it.
Yeah. Jeez. All right. Log formatter. All right. That sounds good. And I'll clean that up while we're at it. All right. Let's try running this again. You got AOT compatibility in Akka.net, but at what cost? At what cost? Okay. That very how to put it, it's very unsatisfied to go ahead and like do all this work and only like see the warning count go down by one. I'd love to be able to knock several out at a time. All right, we're down to 55. All right. Fix default log formatter, AOT loading. Okay. All right. What's next? Probably another thing in this class, if I had to guess. Supervision strategy. Line 1113. That's under Akka actor. It's kind of amazing how technical debt can kind of leap out at you from like parts unknown. Like we had no idea .NET would go cross-platform or implement, AOT support, but here we are. Okay. So what is this about? Create configurator?
It's for supervision strategy because you can't load type from config.
Type name is null. Well, this we might actually be able to fix with a dynamically accessed attribute. It's the call above this that loads it from Hocon that's going to be a bit of a problem.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and grab that. We might be able to solve that one since we're not dealing with. Are we actually? Let me take a look. Crap. No, we can't. um, let's see. We might be able to. Yeah. I wonder if that's going to create a problem because we do load a default strategy for the Guardian this way. I wonder if that's going to cause the application to crash at startup. Let's try. That might be problematic. We'll find out. All right. AOT compatibility. What else do we have up here? Yep, I was afraid of that. Okay. Well, we'll just have to keep getting down to it, I guess, as we go here. My worry here was that the default Guardian strategy wouldn't work correctly. Let's take a look. What are the other implementations of this? No, actually, this should be fine. There's no other implementations of this that should be perfectly okay. So we should not be getting a null exception or anything from there. Okay. I think that should be all right. Okay, and let's see if I can fix. I won't mess with that. That bothers me though. So maybe we should be able to fix that. Let's take a look next at. Let's go ahead and do commit A. AOT fix issue with supervisor strategy configurator. Okay. Next on the list, we're down to 54. All right. So back to our original total. Logging bus start default loggers. That is on line 117 of logging bus. I think this one,
Events.
yeah, event logging bus. But yeah, it's like you never anticipate some of this sort of stuff making it into your realm of concern, right? Okay. Start default loggers. Ugh. Okay, so here's what we're going to do here. Yep, that's fine. Okay. We need to add type hints for all of the built-in loggers that are defined in akka.conf with a to-do noting that loading custom logger types is quite popular. So what we're going to end up needing to do is have some way of populating the collections in the type hints area with stuff people provide in those setup classes, potentially.
Mhm.
Yeah, basically moving a lot of the configuration away from Hocon and towards setups. Do we already have a logging setup anywhere? Let's take a look. Setup. Let's take a look at this real quick. A log filter setup, but no.
Not the actual logger itself.
Not the logger itself. No. So where did you
Yeah.
add that? All right. This thing's going to compact in a second here, which means that it's going to be down for the count for maybe a minute or so. Yeah, there we go. It's compacting. Okay. After you've made your changes, can you please file a GitHub issue under the AOT tag and the v1.6 milestone to add a logger setup type that will allow users to configure custom loggers in an AOT compatible fashion. Might want to discuss merging it with the log filter. Is it called log filter setup? Guess it doesn't have its own file. All right, I'll go ahead and ask it to do that. Hopefully it won't get distracted. We'll see. It might actually. Yeah, I'll let that go ahead and ride there. So yeah, we'll need a log filter setup. This also brings me back to an issue that we gave up on as part of the 1.5 milestone, which was adding proper semantic logging support to Akka.net. That's something we could definitely bring back here, and that would make the log filtering a lot easier. Like, we never really implemented the log filtering properly in like our Serialog implementation, for instance, because we don't support semantic logging correctly. I wonder if it's time to go and revisit that potentially. Should be a lot easier to implement and test in the era of AI. Building a high performance semantic log parser is not the painstaking hand rolled code exercise that it was before. So we'll see how that goes. I'm also deeply bothered that Memorizer, even after all my fixes, still doesn't work for being able to write content back out. Although maybe I just need to try it again. Actually, you know what? The issue might be that this session I started before I reconfigured everything. Maybe that's part of the problem. I'll dive into that a little later. Well, that whole issue with Memorizer basically is just that you had to reconfigure the endpoint that you're connected to because of changes to the MCP specification too. You lost 2 hours of content. You're joining us late, man. What's going on there? Well, no worries. You can go and rewatch all of it anytime you want. We're entering in the home stretch here to try to make some more headway on AOT support. And Gregorius and I have come up with a plan and approach that is pretty experimental, but hopefully should get us to full AOT compatibility in a relatively short period of time here. So we're chipping away at it. Okay. Let's see. So I think it says it's done with the AOT compilation stuff now. Let's see how true that is. It's doing this thing again, which we know doesn't work. Yeah, I can't do that. So what is this thing trying to do? We do get type. Add logger. Props.create logger type. I don't know about that. I think that's still going to create AOT problems. I'll let that thing crank a little bit. Let's try it. I don't think that's going to work personally. Maybe it will, but we'll find out. Okay, run that. See if Claude is done. Bro, nah, I didn't ask you to commit anything. Why don't you just hang out? Okay, we're down to 53. All right, fair enough. I guess I can run with that. All right. Next issue. Mailboxes.lookup configurator. This is on mailboxes.cs line 184. And do we need to, let's see, what was this we're figuring here? This is what, logging bus? All right. Let's see, fix issues with, looks like we lost Gregorius. He'll be right back. All right, fix issues with logging bus. All right, got that done. Next, we will go ahead and we'll go ahead and take care of this issue with, how many are we up to now? 53. What a slog. Let's go ahead and see if we can get mailboxes configurator fixed. That's line 184. All right. That'd be under event. No, it's dispatch. Mailboxes, line 184. Type get mailbox type name. Oof. All right. We are going to need to type get out configurator. This might be a little trickier than the ones we've been working on so far. All right. Let me go and grab this. Up, here's Gregorius.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Gregorius.
Thank you. I just lost internet connection, so I have to go with the mobile plan for now.
Good times. Well, no worries. We're entering into the home stretch here, so hopefully that won't completely destroy your plan. So this issue, let me go ahead and grab that. So this issue is a little bit more challenging. So we got the mailbox requirements kind of loaded via AOT. Now this is the actual configurator stuff. Oh, actually, this is a lot easier than it looks. Okay, no problem. If the configurator is unbounded, we do an unbounded mailbox. If it's bounded, we do this. Anything else, we go ahead and we do all this custom work down here. This is actually easier than it looks. Okay. We should just go ahead and do if AOT enabled. Now, I guess I'll do else right there. And then where's
After
the try? Is the I'm trying to figure out where the try is after the catch. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is a lot easier than it looks. Good. For the default mailboxes, we actually, I think I mentioned this in one of the GitHub issues we looked at. We already do the right thing, which is we don't attempt to use reflection at all. I guess here we should what? Log a warning. Yeah. To do add support for custom mailboxes. Yeah. I don't know where that came from. Dude, Copilot, that's kind of a fail, buddy. Yep. I think that seems fine. No custom mailbox support with running with AOT. That seems okay to me. All right, let's go ahead and try running that. Yeah, so I'm only using Claude here to do like gopher work that I don't really want to be bothered with myself. Okay, I don't believe this for a second. Let's go ahead and try actually running the AOT app. This tells me I've got a compilation error somewhere. is what that sounds like. I don't know. Yeah, I don't believe for a second that we've got 0 AOT warnings. All right, there we go. That is more like it. When you see 0 AOT warnings, it means you've got a real compilation failure somewhere in here. Okay, so where is that? Its value is assigned but never used. That's a warning, I guess. Hmm. Well, I guess I can go ahead and just not use that in AOT support. That'd probably be the simplest thing to do. Don't support mailboxes that use this config in AOT mode. All right. That seems more like it. Let's try that again.
I don't think that's the actual cost.
Well, basically, it was a warning that got elevated to error status because we assigned this, but then never read it, basically.
Mhm.
So we'll see. All right, now we're getting trim warnings again. 52. Okay. Fixed AOT warning with loading mailbox configurator. All right, 52 more to go. Good Lord. Oh, man. I hope those are I'm idealistic that this stuff here, these delegate helpers, there's gonna be some space where we can not like nuke a bunch of those all in one go. But we've got to work through all the more obvious ones up here first. Okay. This is the dispatcher area. Okay, let's take a look at dispatchers 607. I knew this. I knew this would be an issue in here somewhere.
Mm.
All right, 607. Here we go. Well, so for all of the built-in dispatcher types, we correctly handle that here. We just do a switch statement and new it up. I guess we would just go ahead and say if AOT enabled, we'll do it else block. It's not supported in AOT mode. To do create setup for custom dispatchers. What we'll probably end up doing is like extending the bootstrap setup to include the ability to like specify this stuff, Gregorius. I think that's what makes the most
Yeah.
sense. You know what I mean? Rather than
Mhm.
defining a million little setups, I think just making the bootstrap setup a lot bigger is probably the right way to go. All right. Let's give that a oh crap. Okay. Clear that. Can you amend my previous commit to say AOT fixed issues with custom dispatcher loading? All right. Let's go ahead and run that. I probably should have set up like another like command tab for just doing commits so I don't keep fat fingering that. That probably would have been the way to go. I'm almost certain, by the way, that link expressions issue is coming from the expression compiler that we're using in props. I'm almost certain that's where that's originating from. $51. Okay. Now where are we? All right.
Delegate helpers.
I'm pretty sure this is from us using the new expressions inside props. I'm almost certain that's the case. All right. All right, looks like it amended my previous commit. That's great. All right. Paste that in. I want to understand where that's coming from. I'm almost certain it's props, but it would be great if we could figure that out. Being logged in our AOT Canary. This is external / third-party code. Where can we tell where this is being called from inside our code? I'm 99% sure this is from props. That's my guess, but yeah, let's figure. Oh yeah, linked expressions. There we go. Well, that's helpful. You can go ahead and actually generate a DGML file that basically shows where the linker is trying to look at stuff. I wonder if Claude can interpret that. If so, that's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, props to CS and expression extensions. Yep, sounds right. Are we even still using expression extensions? Who wrote object extensions as option? Good guess. Yeah. Let's see. Expression extensions, get arguments. This is some of performance optimization that Andrew made to, yeah, this is the culprit right here. Props.create. Okay. So this is a big issue here. And this, I think, takes us over to Michael Buck's pull request, which we should take a look at. Since he has tried to deal with this issue head on, I think. So the good news is that, let me go ahead and submit a pull request, I guess. Yeah. And I'll go ahead and just mention here, experimental approach to attaining AOT compat via essentially a second library. Go and draft that. Just to make it really super duper obvious, we'll go ahead and put the no merge label on there. All right. Yep, that's all up here. I've got some more changes I need to push, but let's go look at Michael Buck's pull request. See what he tried to do. Remove usage of expressions. Let's check this out. This was earlier this year. Let me go and let Michael know he was on the right track. We're trying to remove that. That we probably don't need anymore. Let's see. Michael actually did get a super impressive amount of stuff to pass here. The fact that there's only 13 test failures is pretty awesome. So what did he actually do? If I had to guess, change it to using function. Yep. All right. Well, that would do it. Well, what do you think, Gregorius? Just go and merge his pull request into our little experimental branch.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
All right, let's do that.
See what happens. Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? Sorry for swearing on the stream, but Claude is off building a Taj Mahal out here somewhere. Okay. Well, it answered our question like 10 minutes ago. What is you doing? Yeah, discard changes. The goal is not to get the AOT canary to pass by changing the syntax. The goal is to get it to pass by making it so the default syntax everybody uses actually works. And look, I already have Michael Buck's remote here. All right. Which Buck? Okay. And what branch is he on? Props using Funk. Git merge. Let's go ahead and do H Buck. Okay, git merge tool. If I really wanted to be like lazy as hell, I would just have Claude solve that for me. Thankfully, I didn't need to though. Git's own merge function figured that out. All right, git merge, continue. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. All right. And I'll get rid of that. Let's see if regular old compilation still works before we try AOT. All right, let's give this a try. Yeah, I'm going to double check real quick. Oh, he even fixed the test kit for you, Gregorius. That was nice of him.
Oh, cool.
All right. All right, there we go. We got Michael Buck's stuff in here. Anytime I can leverage someone else's hard work, I will totally do that. Let's see where I'm at with our build progress here. This is going to take a second or two since we're still syncing off the file system. All right. Hey, Core Akka compiled. All right. That's a good sign. Good deal. So we'll go ahead and let that roll for a second there. I guess the other so by the way, this will totally like annihilate remote deployments, I think, for the most part. Unless those users refactor it to use the activator syntax. But I think this should work. All right, I don't need to compile everything. We just need to get our AOT canary to work, which looks like we should get some good data from this. Let's give that a try. All right, let's run that. If this gets us down pretty close to 0, we might be able to actually run the application, which would be sweet.
That would be great. But
yeah, I'm a little skeptical. Okay.
Yeah.
Down to 10. All right. All right, that's pretty manageable. Michael Buck, thank you for doing the lion's share of our work on stream, off stream. All right. What's next?
Yeah, router.
Deployer. Yeah, okay. This is, I think, implementing custom routing types. Where's that? What was the create router config? 156 under actor.deployer. All right. Yeah, here we go. All right, so here's what we're going to need to do here. We're actually going to need to go and create a type map for this. All right. We are going to need to create an entry in type hints for this. Bear in mind, let's see. Is it just router config? How hard can this be? Router dispatcher. That doesn't seem too hard. Router config for this. Down the activator route for this, or would we be better off using a delegate-based approach like we did for serializers? Given that virtually no one uses custom router configs. Yeah. We'll probably also need to add a setup for these as well. I just thought of one person who does use custom router configs. Any guesses, Gregorius?
Can't think
Well,
of any.
Phobos. Phobos does.
Oh,
That's going to be an immediate commercial problem for us doing some of that.
oh,
That's okay. Like I said, we're going to have to come up with a solution for users eventually. But yeah, the basic gist of this is that we would need to expose the ability to specify the stuff on setup types, that sort of thing. Effectively, if we want to support AOT like as a first party thing in the core Akka package, we're more or less going to be deprecating huge amounts of HOCON for all this, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing per se. Akka hosting should make the transition pretty easy.
it's going to be a major refactor in Akka hosting though, because we have to change all of the Hokan mapping to setup class mapping instead.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a if people are using Akka hosting, we can do that swap underneath the covers. If they're not using it, that's if they're not, I think if I drew a Venn diagram for you, Gregorius, people who are not using Akka hosting and care and they, like in one circle, and people who care about AOT in the other, I don't think those circles touch. You know what I mean?
Most
Um,
probably, yeah.
Actually, the one person who probably is in that intersection is me writing all these command line tools. That's probably I'm probably the one person who does care about that. But then again, I wouldn't run around using a bunch of actually there's got to be a third circle wants to use a bunch of like custom features in Akka.NET 2. So like I don't think those three circles touch very much. So maybe I wouldn't worry about it. You do see it show up, and the day will come when someone will come asking for it. We just got to kind of have an answer,
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Hey, look at that. It even wrote us a good little error message. I appreciate that. Now let me commit these changes. Okay. I'll let
Yeah,
you do that.
it's committing it automatically.
These little AI agents really want to be helpful, even if it hurts. Okay. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and run this. This will probably get us down to single digits. Should be nice. Oh. Well, this one might be kind of nasty. See, so I don't think we need to deal with this one per se, because this deals with like live serialization issues. I'm thinking about what we need to get actors to run. These guys all down here all need it. Okay, whoops, here we go.
Kind of froze.
Did it freeze? I don't know. Oh, you know what? That was
Yeah.
me. I had something selected in the window.
Uh,
Okay, that's all done. Serialization identifier helper. Okay, what is this about? Serializer.cs 200. All right. We might actually get like full AOT compilation going in the next 25 minutes. That would be pretty solid if we did that. This is what it's complaining about.
There's a that.
Why are we doing this to dictionary?
We're trying to enumerate all of the serializer ID to the type.
I see. This is a little bit more challenging of a design issue. Let's take a look at where this is getting called. Serializer identifier from config, get type system. I think I know why we are doing this.
Well, we're allowing identifiers to be described from its configuration instead of hard coding it into the serializer itself. So
yeah. Don't we already know? We already know the type of this serializer, right? Maybe we can just change this to compare the strings rather than comparing the types, actually.
that might work, yeah.
Yeah.
One place it might break is that it could be just a class name or a full FUCN, so it might fail.
Yeah. We think we can fix this AOT warning by looking at the type string rather than trying to load the type. But the issue might be the type is not fully qualified, i.e., we leave off the assembly name. What do we have stored in this area inside akka.conf? And what could we do to allow have approximate matching using just the type names as strings? I.e., we know akka.serialization.byte array serializer. akka.serialization.byte array serializer. Akka. So this is good. So that's a good point you raised, Gregorius, that we do this thing that I kind of mentioned at the end down here.
Yeah.
We have that get clean name extension method?
I think so. Yeah.
Get clean name extension methods for types that solves this problem. Or is the issue that the user can specify a shorter type name or a longer name in Hokon? Yeah.
I think the short name only works for the core
stuff.
Core stuff. It doesn't really work if we're calling it from, like, say, Akka cluster sharding,
Yeah. I think they have to do a fully qualified name if they're doing a user-defined serializer.
Yeah.
of the tests in our suite should confirm that, if that's the case. Yep, just kind of rifling off a whole bunch of information to Claude, seeing what it decides with that.
Well, we could actually just grab the support. Like serializer have to hard code their serializer ID from now on.
I
It's
mean,
not the
on
end
the
of the world.
yeah, it's not. That's true. Okay, you need to chill out, Claude. All right. It's like, oh, let me go ahead and do a new stable release of Akka.net with this change while we're at it. Yeah, it's like I think that's a fair point. In fact, I should probably include a comment here. We could very well just drop this requirement and have users override. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a good suggestion. This is all proof of concept stuff anyway, so we're not married to any of the things we're doing here, right?
And
I
only the core Aqua serializer actually use that
I think so.
properly anyway. Yeah, all of our new serializer actually just does enough, right? So
Added to do regarding serializer IDs. All right. Go and push that up. Okay, on to the next, which is the dispatcher
executor.
configuration. All right. This will probably be real similar to mailboxes. All right. Actually, what class was this again? This was, I think I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Message
Messages.
dispatcher configurator dot configure executor. Yes. All right. This is all such like ancient, like object oriented stuff, all deep in the bowels of Akka.net. I haven't touched a lot of this since like Akka. I added support in Akka.net 1.5 for that like thread affinity thing, but other than that, I haven't really touched this since Akka.net 1.1. Message dispatcher, is it here? No. It was dispatchers, right? Let's take a look.
Configurator, I think. Yeah.
Abstract dispatcher. Okay. And what line number? 343. All right, what's going on here? Well, this is easy. Same fix we did. So the dispatchers was the one area I knew was reasonably well configured already. If AOT enabled, else was already the one area I knew was reasonably well, like sort of suited to being like, nah, dog, we're not doing that. where it already does the right thing and just news up classes rather than uses reflection for all of it. Okay. Log a warning. Throw an except. Yeah, basically throw a configuration exception. Okay. Copilot, you're going to do it? Thank you. All right. Appreciate that. All right. That looks good. Yeah. Just throw an exception, get out of Dodge. I don't see a lot of demand for adding support for that down the road. All right. Let's run that. This should get us down to 7, I think. Let's see. We've got 15 minutes left. We might run out of time for creating the Akka.aot project that has this enabled, but I'm we're just gonna follow this and see where it goes. All right, we're down to 7. Okay. AOT fix dispatcher executor configuration. All right. Let's see what's next. Oh, this is an easy one. Yeah, I think we can actually fix this with an attribute. Yeah, I think all these actually. Let's see if we can knock out a few at once. Can we solve these AOT warnings with attributes? I will totally have Claude paint my fence here for this stuff. Interesting. Huh. This is the compliance checking we do around the queue type that the mailbox needs. I think this is mostly for stashing support is why we do this. All this stuff seems slightly scary, doesn't it, Gregorius? The thought of like trying to pull any of this into the main Akka DLL.
Oh yeah.
Well, shit. I guess we're gonna have to I think shading it with an Akka.aot package for the time being is probably the way to go. If we do things like add these setup classes and all that and make it so we can preserve this functionality, that would work. If we end up having to break remote deployment of actors in order to make AOT just work out of the box or the core package, I'm totally willing to make that trade. I just would prefer if I don't have to, if that makes sense. Yeah, we'll find out. Okay. So we were able to fix the interface access. I still think there's a constructor access issue in here somewhere. At least I thought there was. So we got to get that fixed as well. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. But yeah, because this is true. All mailbox implementations do. In fact, actually, I wonder if there's a way. Yeah, I think we should be okay. All right, let's try running this. There we go. This should get us down. This should get us down to, I think, 3 remaining AOT warnings. Then we still have the issue of the application crashing. I guess we got to fix that too. Although the application should work if we fix the AOT trim warnings, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple. We're back up to 8. I don't think that worked. Try running our test script. It's going to compact again here, but looks like that didn't work. Same AOT warnings we had before. It might also be that we did fix one set of warnings, but you know what? These are actually different sets of warnings. Whoops. My bad. But this is a different set of warnings than what we had before doing all this. So let's see what it's cooking up with there. And it's going to compact in just a second. All right, trim analysis warning, actor cell.init, mailbox type does not satisfy. All right, let's take a look at that. We just committed, if I pull this up over here, dynamically access type interfaces. Okay, that's the annotation we need to provide. So this is actually a different AOT warning. You know what? If we can come up with an answer for that, that'd be great. Write code. Just let us know where the problem might be. If they can tell us basically where to look for that null reference exception, I'll be a happy camper, but I don't need it to run out and fix it. These AOT warnings, Gregorius, let's see, it was the actor cell, right?
Mhm.
Actor cell.init, line 243. All right. Where is init? This is, I guess, the mailbox construction. All right, would I just add that to here? Oh, sorry. Let me grab the actual annotation. I think I copied it out of here.
That part is from the access member types.
Yeah.
It's that interface. Yeah, record side.
All right. I think that should be okay. Let's see. We want to get the interfaces off of that. Mailbox type does not satisfy argument. Interfaces. Actor type. Where's the actor type down here? Is it the same method, actually? Actor cell 243, init. Call to dispatch has required types. Where's actor type? Okay, let's take a look at 243 again. It's the same exact call that we just patched.
It's mailbox type.get type.
Yeah, I see. It's this guy. Props.type. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. If I take a look in here, that's correct. That call. I wonder if it's this guy. Gosh, let me try this. I wonder if I can annotate the property and that'll work. All right, see if that works.
The member type might be wrong though.
Well, basically, it looks like it's checking the actor's interface implementations to see what type of mailbox it might need. This is all about stashing, is what this is for. That we have to swap the mailbox type out depending on whether or not the actor is configured to use a stash, which comes with that sort of interface declaration on it. Well, that would do it. 13. All right, let me, you know what I'm going to do? Discard that. Actually, I think that is probably okay. In fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have Claude help me poke around in here. This is all coming from the same spot. Yeah, this is all about the actor type on props. If is null at this point, let's swap to, let's go with option 1. So that's why it's crashing, is the settings class. All right, have it do that. I believe this can be solved. Whoops. Well, this is Claude Code not having a great time on Windows. All right. Close or kill, active process. Okay. Let's try that again. Yeah. Fix the remaining. Yeah. That was just an issue with managing the actual render buffer here. Okay. Only got a few minutes left. Let's see how close we can get. Oh boy. Gotta do that. And then this was my that. Via attributes. So I'm a little confused on basically like where the attributes need to be. Looks like the problem was that some of the subclasses from props needed to add them too. Is that the case?
No idea.
Well, I'm learning a lot about this.
Yeah.
All right, let's see where the AOT compatibility results all come from here. This stuff is kind of tricky to reason about too. You know, this is like fair. This is thinking more like a C++ developer.
Hmm.
um, Ignore those errors. I can fix that stuff. That's no problem. Yeah, where were we in the settings class here? Problem is that we're setting up all the loggers. The standard out logger is not a logger. It is a, what is it actually?
Class. It's basically a simple actor, a minimal actor. So we have to do a tell.
Yeah, I guess so.
So either
I'll just change this to console.write line, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the way to go here.
If you look at the right side of the screen in the scroll bar, you see a red line. That's where all of the errors are. On the
On the
right,
right side of the screen. I got you.
yeah, there's a red line. That's where the error is.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
That's all news to me. Okay. I think that should be. All right. I think that should be the issues with the. Um, let me go ahead and do this here. Fix NREs with settings. Yes. All right. Go ahead and commit that. Do all my GPG signing. All right, cool. That's all done. Looks like the stream, by the way, is ending for people. We've got one viewer left on Metabridge and none on Stonardian. I think because we've actually reached our allotted time slot as of about a minute ago. Let's just go ahead and see if we can get this to work, and then we'll call it a day here. I think we're down in the single digits on AOT compilation. Only at the cost of completely nuking probably more stuff than that too, actually. But yeah. That is a lot of stuff that needs to be attributed. Cancel that. Yeah, let's see how far we get with this. We can go ahead and maybe call it a day here. So it's basically doing the same things that we were doing by hand, Gregorius. The only difference is that you have to basically cover the entire object graph with these attributes. And you basically every time that type gets accessed, it's got to have this attribute decorated on it. Yeah, I suppose that all makes sense, right?
Yeah. I'm really happy that AI can do this for me.
Oh yeah, this is well. I mean, it's taken us 3 hours, like slogging through all this stuff. Although I got to say, the first 45 minutes to an hour was us trying to figure out how to even do this. But
Sure.
having the AI go and do the actual like legwork of putting attributes everywhere, I'm sorry, but like I'm really happy that it will do that instead of making me do that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. I guess suppressing that message makes sense too. We've already performed this check, I think. All right. Let's see how bad this is. In fact, I'm actually going to shut that down here and we'll run that by hand. All right. Let's see how far we got. Now, if we're down to like 1 or 2 AOT trim warnings left, dude, I think we should just try to finish the job at that point. Because who knows when I'm going to have time to pick this back up again. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. And we still haven't done, we still haven't done the MS build dance either. That's another thing we got to do. All right. Custom mailboxes are not supported in AOT mode. All right, down to 5. All right, we got a little bit more work left to do still, but I think I've got to probably got to move on and get some more stuff done before the end of the day today. But I think we've made pretty significant progress. We started off with 50 or 60 AOT errors. We're down to 5. It probably wouldn't take longer than maybe another hour to go ahead and get all this working. And that would allow us to have AOT compilation working on the most core parts of Akka.net. So actors, messaging, ask, all that good stuff. So Gregorius, thank you for riding shotgun with me here and helping
Yeah.
get all this done. And thank you everyone who watched and thank you for your support and helping us get to 100 million downloads. We really appreciate that. And yeah, Gregorius, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, not really.
Well, that's as is usually the case. All right, everyone. Thanks for your time. We'll see you on our next community stand up in November. Take care.